guys, I am going to do a video. Matilda's asleep. It's like, I'm sorry it's dark, because it's bedtime basically, it's her bedtime. Sean's still at football, and this is kind of the only time I've got really all day to try and do like a sit down vlog like this, where I can actually like focus like properly. So the lighting's a little bit rubbishy, but you're just going to have to make do. So basically I've got a piece of paper here, just with like notes on it. I could have done it on my phone, but I would have been distracted if I had like notifications coming through. So I'm going to do a video on my experience with postnatal anxiety and the baby blues. I will touch on postnatal depression, but I was never diagnosed with any of these things, and I wouldn't say, looking at the symptoms and even how I felt then when I looked it up, I wouldn't have said I had postnatal depression, but I would, looking back now, say that I had postnatal or postpartum anxiety, and also definitely the baby blues, without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt. That's it. So I was going to just talk about my experience. This is my opinions, my personal experience. This could be similar to other people's. There'll be things that are different, things that are the same, and then some people's experience might be completely different. It might be more mild, it might be more severe, it might have required medication or to go and see the doctor. I didn't do that, so I haven't had a proper diagnosis, but this is just me looking into it, and also looking back and reflecting on it. This is the view that I have of it now. So basically, I did suffer with it, probably severely, in my opinion, quite severely. Like, it affected my day-to-day life in a sense. So I probably suffered quite severely for 3 or so weeks, maybe, give or take a week or so, where it was really bad. So I'll just touch on the baby blues. I was aware of this, I was aware of all of this before I had Matilda. I read up on everything, and I thought having the information there would provide me with enough knowledge to avoid it. For some reason I thought that knowing a lot about it would mean that I wouldn't feel it, or I wouldn't get it, because I could avoid it by changing the way I thought. But when I'd given birth, my hormones were everywhere, just as every woman is. So chemically, my inside, I was completely and utterly imbalanced, and then my life basically had turned upside down, and I was overwhelmed, and so was Sean. So we went through a lot together, and I was just very lucky that I had the support from friends and my incredible family to sort of help me along and help me through it, really. So I did suffer the baby blues. I'm just looking down because I've got some notes. I wanted to just make sure it was accurate, because it was like, I don't know, 8 months ago now almost. So the baby blues say that you could be emotional and irrational, which I was, like bursting into tears for no reason, which I certainly did. I did that without fail multiple times a day, and sometimes I'd say, oh, it's because of this, and sometimes I'd just say, I actually do not know, but I cannot stop myself from crying. I can't tell you what's wrong, but I can't stop crying either. I'm smiling about it now, but it was a horrible feeling at the time. And also, baby blues can present with anxiety and feeling anxious all the time, which I definitely did. So the postnatal anxiety, which I've sort of looked up, some symptoms overlap with the baby blues, overlap with postpartum depression, so they all sort of intertwine, but there are some things with postnatal depression that I didn't feel. So I had an instant bond with Matilda. I didn't feel incapable of looking after her, like somebody else could do it better, but there was a sense of me wanting to do it all myself, because I didn't think, I knew people could look after her, and now it seems completely irrational. So it's obviously was the baby blues as well. They just weren't good enough in the standards that I wanted at the time, which was completely and utter rubbish, because they were ridiculously capable. There's no reason why anybody else couldn't do anything other than feeding her, because I was breastfeeding her at the time. So postnatal anxiety, there's various symptoms, one of them being racing thoughts, not being able to relax or settle, which was a constant battle. I couldn't, when the baby was sleeping, so when Matilda was sleeping, I couldn't just sit there and watch a film or get something to eat or read a magazine. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't focus my mind. I was completely on another planet. It was just not happening, and I couldn't settle for the life of me. So I would either pace around, or I'd like keep checking on her, which is another like symptom as such. Keep checking things, like the baby's breathing, which was, I know loads of new mothers do this, and I was prepared that I would just keep checking every now and again, but it was quite like I would have to do it a lot of the time. Whenever she was out of my arms, I couldn't hear her or see her chest moving up and down, I had to go and check on her, and it got ridiculous. It was silly. It was the frame of mind I was in and the mindset I was in, and I just couldn't get myself out of it. Being worried all the time, really worried though, not just like, oh, I'm worried this is going to happen, oh god, that's a bit worrying. It was like really worried something bad was going to happen. Things like if Sean was out at football or whatever, and was he going to get home safe, was he going to make it, was he going to crash the car, something really bad was going to happen, which these things do happen, but you shouldn't be thinking of them that much. Like, it's a possibility, but you shouldn't be thinking of them that much, to the point where it's like getting a grip of you and taking away your sanity, which is essentially what it was doing. My worrying was ridiculous. Things like, will the baby wake up, or is something wrong with my baby that I haven't noticed? They're like common symptoms. I had all that as well. Being afraid to be alone. I was afraid to be alone at all, really. I preferred having company, which was mainly I preferred having my mum there, because she was really helpful in every aspect, so emotionally, physically. She was sort of the only person, along with Sean, that I could happily leave Matilda with and know she was going to be okay, but it was still difficult, so yeah. And then I was afraid to be alone with Matilda, just in case something went wrong, or I couldn't cope by myself, is in the sense that if something went wrong, I wouldn't be able to like get to a hospital because I can't drive. Things like that. Not like I can't cope with feeding her or changing her, because that just came naturally. I could do that. It was more that if something irrational was to happen, that probably won't, how would I possibly get to hospital in time? I remember thinking that when I was on my own with her in the early stages. Getting headaches a lot, which I get headaches anyway, so it could have been a contribution of many like different things, like lack of sleep, lack of food, lack of water, then constant stress, and the fact that I get migraines and cluster headaches every other day normally anyway. I had no appetite, which is another symptom. No appetite at all. I wanted to eat and I couldn't eat. I couldn't eat anything, and anything I did eat I would be nibbling at, and I'd feel really sick afterwards. Not because I have an issue with food, not because I don't like food, because I really, really wanted it, and it just, I couldn't eat it. I don't know why, it was just a loss of appetite completely. Feeling trapped and on edge, so like in the house I would feel like a caged animal, like I needed to do something, keep myself busy or get out or see somebody to relieve the feeling of being like, feeling so like closed and trapped within myself in a sense. It's really hard to explain when it comes to mental health and your own mind. You cannot possibly fully explain how you feel to someone, but there may be some people watching this that understand exactly what I mean, as I did when I was reading the lady's article on her blog, which I've got some of this information from. I was really tired, obviously, as every mother is, but I couldn't sleep, not for the life of me. I just couldn't sleep. I would hear every noise, everything. I just could not settle down. I could not shut my brain off to go to sleep now. So I was just exhausted. I was sleep deprived beyond measure with hardly anything to drink and eat because I had no appetite and I just felt sick all the time. A sense of dread, something bad was going to happen. I've already touched on that briefly, but seriously, like, you can't even say sometimes what you thought might have been the problem, or what you thought might happen, or what you're dreading that might happen, but you just feel it. You just feel like something bad is going to happen. And I couldn't even tell you now what it was. There was something at the bottom of the list of symptoms for this postnatal anxiety, and that was that you think you've gone crazy, and that this is, you fear that this is a new reality. The way you feel is a new reality, and that's just how your life's going to be, and it's never going to change. You're going to have to deal with this now, all for the rest of your life. But obviously, at the time, in hindsight, I know that's not true, but at the time I really believed that I wasn't going to feel any better. I was going insane and I couldn't stop it. I had no control and I was completely losing myself in who I was. I just didn't know what was going on, didn't know who I was. Not like memory loss, didn't know who I was. It's just like a figure of speech. I just didn't know where I was at. I couldn't have explained it to anybody, but I just didn't get it, why I was feeling like that. I had, looking back now, again in hindsight, but even at the time, I knew I had an incredibly easy birth compared to other people's experiences. I had a brilliant time with breastfeeding, again easy compared to problems that had arisen for other people. I had a healthy baby, I had incredible support from family and friends, but I still felt like that. So I also felt a sense that I didn't really deserve to feel like that, because I hadn't gone through any kind of trauma. But I think anyway, it's just such a life-changing, huge experience, overwhelming measures of all different feelings and emotions, along with chemically being imbalanced inside, so all of the hormones and whatnot getting back to normal, was obviously an issue too, and obviously a contributing factor. But yeah, I wanted to put that out there, and then just to say that I'd experienced that. And at about 3 or 4 weeks postpartum, I didn't go to the doctors. I told health visitors, who wrote it down in the red book, and they obviously, if they said it was getting to a stage where it's like stopping you from doing things, which it wasn't. I was still going out, I was still talking to people, and I was still enjoying the experience of being a mother, and having an incredible bond and love for our baby, and eventually it sort of just fizzled out as such. I don't know if that's really the word, but for lack of a better word, it just fizzled out by itself. My mum gave me like a little anxiety book thing to read, do some exercises, breathing exercises where you visualise something, so it's like CBT, which is like cognitive behavioural therapy, where you sort of try and change like the way your mind perceives something as such. So I was trying to slowly do those things, and they helped sort of at the time, more just as a distraction than anything. So I did a few of those, but like I say, I had no medication, and eventually I think just getting into a routine, I managed to sort out my headaches, which meant I could put more into being a mom rather than always having a headache and needing someone to look after while I went to sleep. But because of those tablets, I had to stop breastfeeding, so I had a bit of like an inner battle with myself there, like, do I stop doing this because I love it and I know how good it is, but the pros are that I'm going to be well, I'm going to be happy, and find it easier to go day-to-day life without having an intense migraine, or do I stick with the intense migraines for a few more weeks or more months of breastfeeding to then just be irritable and upset and not being able to put my all into bringing Matilda up, as in development wise, being like playing on the floor with her. It's all these things like that, so I had to weigh those out. So I had a bit of a battle with myself after that for months and months and months and months, probably until recently that she started eating 3 meals a day. I was battling with the fact that I really wanted to breastfeed and I stopped, and I felt guilty for that. But like now I'm happy with my decision because I made it for a reason, and now I can rationalise it, and it doesn't bother me. I just know next time round I'll push for more help from GPs and nurses and things like that, because they weren't that helpful. But I didn't push for it either because I didn't feel I was in the right mindset to really push my views on somebody. I didn't feel confident enough in myself and that I knew what was best, but now I know that I will do next time round, and I did what was best for me and my family at the time. So I'm completely and utterly 100% happy with my decision now. Even though I have no issue with like the bottle feeding at all, I have no issue with it whatsoever. Everybody has their own reasons and their own opinions, and I will respect everybody's wishes and wants for their own family. So yeah, basically if anyone's watching this that was here for me at the time, so friends who didn't bombard me with gifts and presents straight away, and if they did, they left it on my doorstep and legged it, because they respected my privacy and my need for time alone without having to try and explain this to them straight away. And I want to thank those and my family basically for just being supportive and understanding the whole way through, and still putting up with my worries and anxieties now and again, presently as well, but they're like controllable. So I hope that was informative in a way. I hope someone out there has watched this and thought, oh my gosh, I'm not alone, I felt like that too, or I feel like that currently, I don't know what to do. There's so many websites. The NHS website puts it black and white, and there's various ones. If you just put it into Google, there's people's blogs, and if it gets to a certain point, that's when you should seek medical help, and when it's really taking over your life. But again, I just wanted to put it out there, put my experience out there, hopefully help other people. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not frightened or scared to tell the world, to tell anybody my experience. I'm more empowered than anything that I managed to come through it, and can see it with a rational viewpoint now, and that it was probably quite a normal, fairly common. I think it's like 15 to 20% of women who give birth have some symptoms, from mild to severe, of like postpartum anxiety, depression, OCD, and obviously the baby blues, which usually come about day 4 postpartum. But it can happen to anybody, whether you're clued up, whether you don't know anything about it, whether you're usually really focused and you know what you want, whether you're usually not a worrier or not anxious, anything. It can happen to anybody, and it's okay. So tell people how you feel, and get help from whoever and wherever you can, and it does get better, or at least it did for me. And my heart goes out to those people who have to deal with this daily, and I hope all of you guys are getting through it as best you can and living your lives as happily as you can. So that's all I have to say really. Sorry, it's probably been quite a long video, but I didn't want to miss anything out because it's quite an important topic. So if you've got any questions whatsoever, put them like just down below this video, or you can follow me on Instagram or message me on Instagram, which is Chloe Thompson, which is on one of our first videos, or just on the description on our channel. So if anyone has any questions, then I'll be happy to answer. And that's it, so I will leave you now and probably go to bed soon as Sean gets home. So bye guys.